If you like my content and you find it entertaining and informative and you wish to buy me a coffee for it, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Link in the description below. Who were the Roman emperors of the 1st century AD? The most powerful men of the known world. There were 12 Roman emperors in the 1st century AD. On this video we will learn their names and regnant name, pronounced with the appropriate classical Latin pronunciation in the proper succession order. You heard me mention the regnal name or regnant name. That is the name used by monarchs and popes during their reigns and, subsequently, historically. It's the official name, if you will, which often includes their main titles. For your information, the regnal name of each emperor will be indicated. Augustus. Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus Augustus, the first Roman emperor, reigning from 27 BC until his death in AD 14 at age 75. He was born in Rome, Italy, Roman Republic, and died in Nola, Italy, Roman Empire. His regnal name is Imperator Caesar Divi Filius Augustus. He was the founder of the Roman Principate, the first phase of the Roman Empire. He was the Princeps, the first citizen. His great-uncle and adoptive father was Julius Caesar himself. His father, who died in 59 BC, was the first in his family to reach the rank of senator, while his mother, Attia, was the daughter of Julia, the sister of Julius Caesar. He was efficient, skillful, and was only 18 when he decided to take up this dangerous inheritance left by his adoptive father. At that time he was at Apollonia, completing his academic and military studies. His return in Rome as the Princeps will change the balance of power forever. Tiberius. Tiberius Julius Caesar Augustus, the second Roman emperor. He was born in Rome and died at age 77 in Misenum, Italy. He was the adopted son of Augustus, and one of the first things that he tried to achieve was to preserve all of the imperial boundaries that the first emperor had instituted. He was instructed in rhetoric, literature, diplomacy, and military skill. He was very serious by nature. He apparently had a slow, methodical way of speaking and was not particularly handsome. However, he was reported to be very diligent. In his last few years in power, he became rather tyrannical, creating a sort of reign of terror in Rome. Caligula. Gaius Caesar Germanicus. Caligula was born in Antium. He died at age 28 at the Palatine Hill in Rome. The name Caligula was actually a nickname that was given to him as a child. It meant little boot. That nickname was given to him by his father's soldiers, as his family lived at his father's posting on the Rhine, and it was in reference to the miniature military uniform in which his parents dressed him. His accession to power after the death of Tiberius was not simple, as he was ill for over 7 months, and the situation became even more complex as in 38 he executed Naevius Sutorius Macro, prefect of the Praetorian Guard. It was written that he made pretensions to divinity and showed an extravagant nature. But oftentimes some of the things that are said against him are very biased, and some are completely untrue, such as the idea that he made his horse a consul. It is possible that he may have suffered from epilepsy. It is extremely difficult to give a proper judgment of his reign and government. He was then murdered during the Palatine Games by Cassius Chaerea, tribune of the Praetorian Guard. Claudius. Tiberius Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. Claudius is the 4th Roman emperor. He was born in Lugdunum, Gaul, and died in Rome at age 63. One of the characteristics of his reign was to extend Roman rule in North Africa even further, and he was the one who made Britain a province. He was the uncle of Caligula and a very popular and successful Roman general. He was the nephew of Emperor Tiberius and the grandson of Livia Drusilla, the wife of Emperor Augustus. It is said that the imperial family considered him something of an embarrassment because of his clumsiness of manner and attractive appearance, and ill health. However, the historian Livy tells us about his great inclination for historical studies. He was learned and knew Greek extremely well. He was made emperor by the Praetorian Guards. and had the real support of soldiers and courtiers. He was remembered because of his administrative innovations, expansions, and colonies. Nero. Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. He was born in Antium. He died in Rome at age 31. Nero is the 5th Roman emperor. He was the stepson and heir of Emperor Claudius. He was very extravagant and became rather infamous because of that. It is said that he was one of the perpetrators of the famous burning of Rome, and he also became famous in history because of his persecutions of Christians. Now you have to understand that the family life and therefore subsequent upbringing of Emperor Nero was extremely complicated. His mother poisoned her second husband, became then the wife of her uncle, Emperor Claudius, and persuaded him to favor Nero for succession. His mother also systematically eliminated her opponents. The prefect of the Praetorian Guard, Sextus Afranius Burrus, was the one to proclaim Nero as the emperor when Nero was only 17, a mere boy vested with absolute power. He banned capital punishment, reduced taxes, and even accorded permission to slaves to bring civil complaints against unjust masters. But it was in the 35 months period between the putting to death of his mother and his orders to put to death his wife, Octavia, is when the real brutality of Nero came forth. He began inordinate artistic pretensions and started giving public performances which were considered to be scandalous by the Italian middle class and courtiers. An inability to promptly react to the several uprisings and riots that started happening both in Spain and in Gaul. And when confronted with these, asking him for solutions, he would just laugh. There are a few possible speculations on how he died. Possibly it was the Senate that condemned Nero to die. The Praetorian Guard, his palace guard, all abandoned him, and he ended up living at Roman Empire in revolts and civil wars. Galba. Servius Galba Caesar Augustus. He was born near Terracina, Italy, and died in Rome at age 70. He was the 6th Roman emperor, although his reign only lasted for 7 months. He was the son of a consul and came from a family of ancient lineage with great wealth. Galba began his senatorial career very early in his life and became a consul, and eventually received command of the upper German army, while eventually even serving as a proconsul in Africa. It is believed that in 68 Emperor Nero was actually considering his assassination, which is one of the reasons why Galba possibly even prompted a rebellion against Nero. Galba, together with the governor of Lusitania, will then march on Rome and will be proclaimed emperor by the Senate. Probably his greatest mistake was refusing to pay the Praetorian Guard that had supported him against Nero the promised donative. On the 1st of January 69, the legions of Upper Germany refused their allegiance to Galba, and in order to try and win at least senatorial support, Galba chose as his heir a member of a noble Roman family. The governor of Lusitania, Otho, who had been his ally throughout the entire situation, felt let down by the new emperor, won over the Praetorians with a promise of a donative, and had Galba murdered on January 15th. Otho. Imperator Marcus Otho Caesar Augustus. He was born in Ferentinum, Italy, and died in Brescello, Roman Empire. Otto's family was rather important. It was a family that had held consulship under Augustus. He was appointed governor of Lusitania, and for 10 years he proved his ability as a governor, ruling this province with integrity. Upon his great disappointment of not being designated as Galba's successor regardless of his continued support, he decided to seize power for himself. But power was anything but secure. Even though he now had the support of the Praetorian Guard, the legions in Germany had declared their allegiance to another political figure, Aulus Vitellius, whose troops were already moving towards Italy. Otto was determined to maintain power and sent a naval expedition to Narborensis, he himself joining the march. Regardless of the substantial reinforcements from Illyricum, the Vitellian forces were too strong. Otto's army was defeated and he took his own life, committing suicide. Vitellius. Aulus Vitellius Germanicus Imperator Augustus. He was born in Rome and died in Rome at age 54. The 8th emperor, the last of Nero's 3 short-lived successors. Vitellius also came from a consular family, and he himself became consul in AD 48. and proconsul of Africa. It was Emperor Galba who appointed him imperial governor of Lower Germany in 68. That might have been Galba's mistake, as the troops in Germany were not friendly to Galba, and Vitellius knew that and used that against him. Vitellius was particularly popular and gained support of most of the governors of Spain, Gaul and Britain. All of this political support gave him the pretext to invade Italy. By that time, Galba had been murdered, and Vitellius' armies fought and defeated his successor's Otho's troops. Vitellius was then recognized by the Senate as the new emperor. But the empire was still divided, and there were still many powerful governors that did not support Vitellius as their leader. Otho's former troops, as well as all the troops in the Balkan provinces, recognized Vespasian as the real leader and invaded Italy under the command of Marcus Antonius Primus. Vitellius' troops will be defeated, and Vespasian's brother persuaded Vitellius to abdicate. Vitellius will be murdered with great barbarity. Vespasianus. Imperator Caesar Vespasianus Augustus. He was born in Valacrinum, Italy, and died in Aquae Cutillae. Differently from all other Roman emperors so far, Vespasianus was of humble birth, but he did become the founder of the so-called Flavian dynasty. His father, Flavius Sabinus, was a Roman knight and a tax collector, whereas his mother, Vespasia Polla, belonged to the equestrian order in society. But it was his brother, the only one who actually entered the Senate. And in a way, Vespasian, at least at first in his early life, always felt somewhat overshadowed by his older brother, who at the time was holding an important command on the Danube and was prefect of Rome for many years. After his military service in Thrace and a quaestorship in Crete, Vespasianus reached the praetorianship. He finally became the commander of the Legio Secunda Augusta, which was one of the legions that took part in the invasion of Britain in 43. And because of his distinguished conduct, he was given charge of the left wing of the advance, capturing more than 20 towns. In 51, he will become consul. In 63, he will then obtain the proconsulate of Africa. Throughout this entire section of his life, the only negative connotation people had to say about him was his avarice. After Emperor Galba's murder, a civil war in Italy was inevitable. His great influence over the legions as a military commander will pave the way, and 2 Egyptian legions, together with the legions of Syria and Judea, will proclaim him their emperor. In his 9th consulship, he had a slight illness in Campania, and as he was returning to the city, his conditions worsened and worsened. Feeling that his life was coming to an end, he reportedly called out, "Vae puto Deus fio." Titus. Imperator Titus Caesar Vespasianus Augustus. He was born in Rome and died in Rome at age 41. He was the son of Emperor Vespasianus and the conqueror of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Titus had served both in Britain and Germany, and he commanded a legion under his father Vespasianus in Judea. In 71 he returned triumphantly to his father and was made commander of the Praetorian Guard. He became the military arm of the new Principate, and, as described in Suetonius' own words, particeps atque etiam tutor imperii, sharer and even protector of the empire. He was reported to be outstandingly good-looking, cultivated and affable. Titus was also very important because of the construction of the so-called Flavian Amphitheater, better known as the Colosseum, that was completed after 10 years of construction. The official dedication of the amphitheater and the baths was in fact his final recorded act as emperor. After setting out for the Sabine territories, he fell ill at the first posting station, where he died of fever. Domitianus. Imperator Caesar Domitianus Augustus. He was born in Rome and died in Rome at age 44, the 11th emperor of the 1st century. He was also one of Vespasianus' sons and brother to Titus. He was chiefly known for his reign of terror. He held several positions such as praetor, princeps iuventutis, imperial prince, and became consul 6 times in Vespasianus' lifetime. As an emperor, he was hated by the aristocracy, and cruelty and ostentation were the reason of his unpopularity. He held strict control over magistrates in Rome. His military and foreign policy is sometimes difficult to describe. It was sometimes successful and other times not particularly. One of his great successes was the fortified line on the Rhine-Danube, and the fact that he participated to his military campaigns in person, something that hadn't happened since the times of Emperor Claudius. However, his popularity with the army remained unaltered, mostly because of his wise idea of raising their pay by 1/3 in AD 84. He became censor for life in 85, which gave him consequent control over senatorial membership, which also created quite a few relevant opponents for him. He was also famous for regularly confiscating property of the victims he chose. He even had his own cousin, Flavius Clemens, executed in 95, which convinced the Senate that no one was safe, and they had him murdered on September 18, 96, at the hand of 2 Praetorian prefects, several palace officials, and the emperor's wife. Now, even though the Senate was overjoyed at Domitianus' death, the army took it very badly, and the next year insisted on the punishment of those responsible. Nerva. Imperator Nerva Caesar Augustus. He was born in Narni, Italy, and died in Gardens of Sallust in Rome, aged 67. He was the 12th and last Roman emperor of the 1st century, the first of what would be called the 5 good emperors. With Nerva, we go back to emperors that were members of a distinguished senatorial family. He was a consul twice and was distantly related to the Julio-Claudian house. After the assassination of Emperor Domitianus, he became emperor. He used a very well-organized propaganda systematically created to condemn the tyranny of the previous emperor and to promise that his reign will be completely different. He created a famous agrarian reform and created a system called alimenta, which were a sort of organized trusts for the maintenance of poor children in Italy, although that may have been the work of Trajan. We don't know. He died of natural causes on the 28th of January, 98. Alright, noble ones, well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember, thumbs up, share this video. Let me know in the comments below which one is your favorite emperor out of these 12 emperors from the 1st century. And if you liked this video, you share it and it gets enough views, I will make a second video dedicated to the emperors of the 2nd century. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.